Happy Tuesday, friends. You know what time it is. It's another edition of Kermit Says podcast. Dear Kermit, I actually kind of forgot what I called it. It's been a long day, so you'll have to forgive me. This week we are talking all things prom, and actually I've got something interesting to talk about today, and that is sex on the prom night. We actually have never gone here before, and so this is kind of exciting and a little nerve-wracking to talk about whether or not you should or one should give up their V card on prom night. And I think oftentimes where this kind of idea comes from is the media, right? So you've got so many teen movies where like that's the expectation, right? So like I'm thinking about um what like movies from my generation. So when Britney Spears was in that really bad Shonda Rhimes movie Crossroads, except that I love it so much. It's awful, but you should check it out. It's on Netflix if you're interested. But, you know, Britney Spears, not to give too much away, but at the end of her prom night, she and her boyfriend, who is actually played by Justin Long, go and they grab a hotel room, and you know it's one of those awkward moments. Do we, don't we? If you can think of some other show or movie that kind of depicts prom in that same way, please leave a comment down below. But I think you guys get the picture, right? So there's like this expectation that on prom night you're supposed to give it up, but are you? Right? Like, where did that expectation come from? And do you actually feel pressured to have sex? And what do you do if you're not ready? Which is kind of where I'm coming from, right? So basically, I was in line at the salad bar and a student approached me casually and just kind of shared some details about prom and expressed this expectation, and that while the expectation stood, it's not something this particular student wanted to engage in. And so, you know, how do you handle that situation? I think that's a completely valid question. And it's so unfortunate that, you know, we've gotten to a point where one just can't be honest with the other person and just say, hey, look, I'm not interested, or hey, I like you, I think you're a great person, and I understand that, you know, because you're an upperclassman or what have you, or maybe you guys are in the same grade, I understand that this is an expectation and it's not something that I feel comfortable engaging in. Like, when did that become such a challenge, such a difficulty? And so today we're just gonna kind of talk about that. So what do you do, right? I think first off, recognizing that having sex on prom night doesn't sit well with you, you need to lean into that feeling, right? Because we can sometimes let this expectation and the peer pressure that comes from it overpower our own feelings. And so recognizing that feeling, trusting that feeling, right? Trusting your gut. You have intuition. Listen to it. There is something that is telling you don't do this, and that's totally fine. Listen to that small voice, or maybe it's a loud booming voice. Whatever it is, listen to it. Second, if you've got this gut feeling that's telling you like, okay, this is not something I want to engage in, have the conversation with that person, right? Let them know, be completely honest, be completely transparent, be as candid and open as possible, and let that person know, hey, this is the expectation, but it's not something I feel comfortable engaging in. Third, if that person doesn't take it well, like if they're not receptive to what you're saying, and if you feel like they are pressuring you even further, or they are saying things like, well, if you don't have sex with me tonight, then we're not going to prom, chuck the deuces. Okay, if you're not familiar with what that means, hold up two fingers like a peace sign and bounce. Leave, because that person is not worthy of your time, your energy, and most certainly your attention inside and outside of the bedroom. Some people don't think that sex is a big deal. If it means that much to you, right, where you are saying, this is an expectation, but I don't feel comfortable, then it obviously means more to you than maybe you think. And that's totally fine. If that person is coming to you and saying, well, if you don't have sex with me, then XYZ, and if those XYZ reasons are anything other than, okay, that's fine, I completely respect you for that, then you need to leave that situation. And I'm sorry, if that means not going to prom, then that means not going to prom. A little side note about consent. So let's say you are feeling so unbelievably confident and optimistic about prom night, and that you are willing and ready to have sex with your significant other or with your prom date. Also totally fine. This is not a shaming kind of show. You do you. That's what Kermit says preaches. So as long as you feel comfortable and confident in your decision, by all means go for it, right? But when it comes to consent, there are a couple of things that you need to know. If you are underage, you cannot give consent. It is what it is. You cannot legally give consent. If you are engaged in a relationship with someone who is underage and you are of legal age, if you are 18 years old and you get caught for whatever reason, there are legal consequences to that. It's called statutory rape, so just be aware of that. The other piece is if you or your partner are under the influence, you cannot legally give consent, right? So you have to be in your right frame of mind, in a clear, sober frame of mind, in order to give consent. And finally, the only consent that matters is an affirmative yes. And just because you had sex before does not mean that you have consent forever. You must make sure you give and receive verbal consent, clear consent every single time, all right? We want to make sure that you are safe, so make sure that you're protected if you do engage. And make sure you have this conversation. Make sure you feel respected and valued, because you are an awesome person and you deserve to be treated like one. So Kermit says has preached enough tonight on sex on prom night or not, and on consent. And so if you ever feel like you're in a situation where consent is not there, or you feel like, you're being harassed, or you feel unsafe because of whatever decision you make, please make sure you go to someone you can trust, whether it's a parent or a sibling, a friend or a teacher, principal, dean of students, counselor, whomever. Make sure you go to someone, because you never know how situations like these can affect you. We want to make sure you're safe. Your school wants to make sure you're safe. Family wants to make sure you're safe. So do whatever you can to make sure that happens. Kermit says is with you. Kermit says loves you, and we will talk to you next week. If you have a question or a concern or anything like that, be sure to email us at contactkermitsays@gmail.com, and to catch up on all the latest Kermit Says news, visit www.kermitsays.com and all our social media websites at Kermit Says. Have an awesome week, friends. Until next time.